Good morning, everyone. Just first of all, I wanted to say thanks for everyone coming in early, and really happy to have a chance to come back to Geneva. Not as a student, but it's been about 7 years. I won't lie, it was the Alps that really attracted me to the area, so I was very fortunate to kill a couple birds with one stone and get a lot of skiing in and finish my school off. As I knew when I was returning home, I had to roll the sleeves up and get to work. So really happy to be able to share with you what I've been working on for the last 7 years. Lithium. I've been working on lithium. In fact, 2009, 2010, our fearless leader, Elon Musk, was getting started with Tesla. And I felt that on the macro scale, our timing was perfect, and very fortunate to have an asset in the company that had some lithium potential and showing at surface. Lithium is the lightest of all metals. It has the highest electrochemical potential of all metals. We're on the cusp of an energy revolution. Lithium's growth is anticipated every 4 years will double from now until 2035. So that's the millennial side of me talking. But with the humble roots of my upbringing in a strong family business, we look at the market and say, hang on a second, one step at a time. So one thing that I want to try and highlight as I go through the presentation today is it's really important as a lot of people and analysts and writers are trying to sway their clientele a little bit away in the last couple of months away from lithium, referring it as a potential bubble. And there's some key things that I'm hearing that are really not correct. If there's one thing I'd like to highlight, it's that you could hedge some of those risks. Typically, we think that the market will come. The analysts historically have usually been off on their timing. So one way to hedge that risk of time is to make sure that you look at science first. And what I mean by that is looking at, firstly, how our company has looked at the business is at the deposit models or the deposits that have historically supplied the market before we see this rapid change in the market and growth. And that is your safest bet on historical deposit models that have supplied. That's the safe zone. So one thing that we'll talk about is the reality that those deposit models are very rare. So we're very fortunate. I'm really a lucky president and CEO here of Frontier Lithium to share with you that we are working on a deposit that has low iron in hard rock. The mineral is called spodumene. And those low iron deposits are very, very difficult to find. We're very fortunate to be working on one of those. This is a world-class deposit. Forward-looking statement, just cautionary notes that, of course, just be forewarned that I'll be trying to predict the future here. Some quick market facts on the company. We're a small company. We trade on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol FL, about an $85 million market cap. Range 24 cents to 78 cents. We're trading around 60 cents right now. Fully diluted, 150 million shares, in the $1.2 million in the bank. Management has over 30% of the company. My immediate family, we're about 25% of the company. So our skin's in the game, very much aligned with our shareholders. We're really cognizant of dilution, so we one step at a time make sure that we're doing things right and not getting ahead of ourselves. Again, we work on the science and then we talk about about what we have done. We're not promoters. We're working on a world-class deposit called the Pack Lithium deposit. Again, it's low iron. That's a key differentiator. Ontario and Quebec, you'll hear from Nemaska later on. Great company doing great things. Those two provinces are premier mining jurisdictions in the world. So we're very fortunate to have discovered a world-class deposit in Ontario. I've managed to leverage the deposit to attract some world-class experts. The reality is a lot of the juniors in lithium are really struggling for the mere fact that in the past it was a bit of a sleepy business and there really wasn't a lot of people with experience. Two in particular, Mike Tamlin, Australian, he spent his career working at the Greenbushes deposit. That deposit, located in southwestern Australia, over the last 20 years has supplied roughly 40 to 45% of the world's lithium requirements. That's one hard rock mine for the last 20 years that's supplied. The rest of the supplies come from the lithium triangle, more specifically Chile, Argentina. So from one hard rock mine. Peter Vanstone came from a small deposit. They did some lithium mining. He spent 30 years there. It was owned by a large chemical company called Quebecor, operating in neighboring Manitoba, about 400 kilometers away from our deposit. It's the last 10 years of his career working as chief geologist, mining geologist. So those two individuals managed to, again, leverage the deposit, bring them in, and a lot of my lithium expertise has come from these two, basically. Won't spend, I'm already behind here, so board of directors, basically a lot of mining experience from large companies such as Inco, now Vale, controlled by the Brazilians out of the Sudbury camp. I was born and raised in Northern Ontario and lucky to have about 25 head frames within a 20-minute drive of my home. So that Sudbury camp is a world-class nickel camp and tied in very deeply with the mining roots and great people, surrounded by some great gray hair with a lot of seasoned experience. Quickly, technical applications and chemical applications, obviously. So before batteries, the market was glass, ceramic glass. So the Cornings, the Schotts of the world. They ate up the lion's share of the lithium supply. And of course, in the last 10 years, that has changed. So the industrial market is now the second largest market segment, but it's still a healthy one that continues to grow about 6 to 7% a year over the last 4 years. The nice thing about that business as well is that the glass makers have been in business for over 300 years. They're not going anywhere. Lithium is not replaceable. They require it. And the reality is they're under a lot of pressure as a result of what's happening around energy storage and lithium battery technology. Again, most of the supply from brines, Argentina, Chile, ourselves, our family, we're a little bit cautious people. We prefer to invest our money in Ontario, in our backyard, our jurisdiction. Spodumene is the key mineral that has the highest value in hard rock for lithium. It has the most amount of lithium in it. And again, spodumene, 99% of the lithium that you hear from hard rock is a high iron. So if we think to the old Coca-Cola bottles that were green, high iron glass. So the market has demanded cleaner, clearer glass. So the specifications over the years have gotten tighter and tighter and tighter. The only lithium that the technical users can use in concentrate form, mineral form, is a spodumene with low iron. Has to be low iron. Those are hard to find. That's what we have. That's what we're working on. The deposit's located in northwestern Ontario. Obviously a very stable jurisdiction, very friendly. We live, eat, and breathe mining in Ontario. It's about 8.5 million tons. It's the same deposit, very similar deposit model to the Greenbushes deposit that I had mentioned. We're very fortunate to be working on a world-class deposit. It's we only have 140 kilometers of a 3-month seasonal winter road to access the deposit. So not a lot of work in the future when required to convert that to all season. We have strong relations with Aboriginal communities or Indigenous communities around the deposit. How am I doing for time?
About 6 minutes.
Left. Okay, thanks. The deposit's high grade. In fact, it's on paper, the second highest grade deposit in the world. When constrained, we're currently working on a pre-feasibility study. We expect to have that out just after Christmas. Grade is king. And the fact that it's low iron is an absolute game changer for us. The reason is that as we're very cognizant of dilution for our shareholders, the reality is that we can firstly build a concentrator to produce concentrate, firstly for the industrial users who are under extreme pressure and can't buy enough product now. Main reason is that Tianqi, a very large Chinese company, 3 years ago purchased that Australian mine, where 5 years ago 80% of the output was for the glass makers, big part here in Europe. Now 20% of the output is for the industrial users, and the rest now is sent to China for their chemical plants for further refining to get the purity required for cathode technology for batteries. So the reality is under great pressure. So for a small company such as ourselves, that's the low-hanging fruit. That's the focus to get started. The deposit's wide, about 50 meters wide. It's open in all directions, and we have the luxury, it's right at surface. We have the luxury of a 4 to 4.5% zone right at surface. That's the highest grade zone on the planet, and it's up to 30 meters wide. So it's amenable to bulk open pit mining as a starter at the deposit, at the project. So, and again, it's open in all directions. So we think there's a lot of upside on our tonnage. And that's one thing that we're going back to start increasing the resource. That'll start happening this upcoming winter. Around 2% grade. If you're looking at assets, our rule of thumb is 1.3. If you have 1.3, you've got a great shot to be competitive, you know, in the long run when the supply-demand fundamentals or have equilibrium. So 1.3% is a good number. We're constrained around 2%. We think there's a lot of upside. This is really the kickoff of our promotion. We have not promoted the company. When we look at Frontier and compare it to, let's say, Critical Elements on the far right, they're out of Quebec. They are talking about producing technical grade product as well. When we look at the contained lithium or their resource and put it over market cap, that would suggest that Frontier Lithium should be trading around $1 right now. Some level of comfort is that valuation for CRE is based on a grade of around not even 1%. So we have almost pretty much double the grade. So we think there's a lot of upside potential for our stock. We're working with XPS Lab, which is a Glencore's company. The nice thing is that lab's about 10 minutes from my office and my home. We're working with them on our flow sheet, and we've produced concentrates over 7%. And theoretically, the maximum spodumene holds is 8. So the tightest specifications to hit are glass specifications. They require 7% plus. And low iron, less than 0.15% iron oxide. And we're there. Really tough to do. So a phased approach. We're open to batteries, but one step at a time. If we can share some of our experience. One thing that we can say is that at the end of the day, chemical plants, so the refineries to produce what the batteries require, they don't build mines. Mines build chemical plants. So we've seen a lot of small companies invest. I've seen over $1 billion get invested over the last 10 years. And what the companies have tried to do is build a mine and a chemical plant at the same time. Those are two very different beasts. And that's not the way to get into the business. It's a high risk proposition. But typically this is driven by lifestyle companies, people that want to grow exponentially in a short period of time. That is not Frontier Lithium. So we take a very disciplined approach. Phase 1, take care of the glass makers. Phase 2, so while we're doing phase 1, we announced a month ago, we've started the proof of concept work to produce lithium carbonate for batteries. So we're working on the flow sheet right now to take the concentrate and then further refine that for batteries. That will come, we're working on it now. That is the right way, based on our experience, to build a mine and become a player to enter into the space. We're the only junior out there that's not controlled by the oligarchy that controls lithium now. We're the next one in the timeline, and the benefit is, and what the differentiator is, no iron. So we have options. If all hell breaks loose and the market comes crashing down, we are developing great relationships right now and working on the sleepy glass makers that have been in business for 300 years. And we'll have a good run with this deposit doing that. We don't think that's going to happen, but we're prepared for it. This is a quick picture as I wrap up of the deposit at surface. You'll notice how tough on that screen, but it's very, very white. When you start looking, if you're looking or researching other companies, you'll notice that the rock and the material is tan or green colored. These white, that's essentially ceramic glass. The glass stovetops in people's kitchens, lots of it in Europe. It's about 4% by weight of lithium. It's the lithium that allows the glass to take the heat. What glass in the world can you take a cold pot of water, heat up the glass to 500 degrees, throw the water on it, it doesn't crack? That's what lithium does, and it's not replaceable. So, the Chinese are all over us. They would love to control this deposit, but we won't let them. Our strategy is this deposit is a strategic deposit for the West. So the divide is Europe and North America. "2018 is going to be a busy year for us. Right after Christmas, the PFS will come out. We are already working on feasibility work on our flow sheet. We're actually a little bit ahead of ourselves than where we are on paper. We'll complete final engineering and our feasibility. Our baseline environmental will be finished as well just after Christmas. So we expect to start permit applications in 2018 as well. Typically 12 to 18 month duration to become fully permitted. Final agreements with our Indigenous community partners. and finalize the proof of concept work for pilot plant for producing lithium carbonate. We hope 2020 we'd be in a position to start selling and shipping concentrates. And the worst case scenario would be 2021, but our aim is for 2020. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So happy to come back. Just walked the streets last night and a lot of memories coming back. Geneva's a very special place, very special people. I just absolutely love this country. And you know, if I wasn't working side by side with family at home, and if I had to live somewhere, this would be the place. If you have more questions available, our website's a really good source of information beyond just the deposit, but a little more on the market. And we also have a Facebook page that I suggest everyone look at to get a sense of culturally and socially what we're doing with the deposit with our Indigenous community partners. Thanks again.
Well, thank you, Trevor. Great presentation.